She paused again, choosing her next words carefully. And then I began to think, maybe I was wrong about what love even looked like for him. Her eyes narrowed slightly in thought. You asked if Tate has ever been in love. A bit. I think he was in love once as a kid. She looked directly at Noah now. But I don't think I ever knew who it was directed toward. A quiet breath. I asked him once years ago, he didn't answer me. Her expression softened into something uncertain. I assumed it was you. A pause heavier this time. Until I saw the letters. She shook her head slightly. Then I thought maybe it was those girls, or none of them, or something I was never meant to understand. Her voice quieted further. But I will say this. She held Noah's gaze. If he isn't in love with you, then I don't think I've ever seen him in love with anyone at all. A final pause settled between them. And that, she added softly, is what worries me most. Talia seemed to circle back to it again, as if saying it from another angle might finally make it resolve into something understandable. There were a few women I knew were his lovers, she said slowly. Mary, Brianna, Jay, Philippa, and Connie as well. She was one of his ex-teachers. The last detail still seemed to carry a kind of disbelief for her, even after all this time. But it never lasted, she went on. A few days, maybe weeks, then he'd move on to someone else like it never really anchored. She paused, eyes narrowing slightly in thought. But you stayed. Noah didn't respond at first. For decades, he said finally quietly. Talia shook her head almost immediately. I honestly thought you were the love of Tate's life. The sentence came out with a kind of frustrated softness, like she was confessing a conclusion she could no longer defend but also couldn't fully discard. It just doesn't make sense, she added. Noah gave a small, uneasy smile, more reflex than humor. It doesn't feel like that, he said, not like that at all. A pause settled between them. Then Noah added, almost as an afterthought. He called me the love of his life once. Talia looked up immediately, attention sharpening. When he was trying to go to sleep, Noah continued, half awake, he just said it like it was obvious. His shoulders shifted slightly, uncomfortable with the memory. But I think he meant it platonically. Talia repeated it under her breath again, slower this time. Platonically. Like she was testing whether the word could possibly hold all of this weight. Noah nodded once. Yeah, like how he says things when he's not really thinking about labels or consequences, just what feels true in the moment. Talia looked away for a moment, visibly unsettled again, as the explanation still didn't quite fit what she had observed over years. That's what I can't understand, she said at last. He speaks like that, acts like that, and yet refuses to define anything at all. Her gaze returned to Noah. And you stayed anyway. Noah didn't answer right away. Talia exhaled softly. Decades of staying, she said again, quieter. And he calls you that in before falling asleep. She shook her head faintly, conflicted. That doesn't come from nothing, she said, even if neither of you knows what to call it. No, Noah said quietly. Tate said once he didn't care if I hated him or if I loved him as long as I let my heart touch his. Talia's brows knit immediately at that, a small crease forming between them as she processed the phrasing. That's an unusual way to put it, she said under her breath almost reflexively. Noah continued anyway, leaning back against the car. He didn't dwell on how I felt, that was never really the point to him. Talia's expression shifted, something like reluctant agreement flickering there, as if she didn't like how well that description fit what she knew of her son. We weren't childhood sweethearts or anything, Noah added, a faint edge of correction in his voice. It was just closeness, that's all it ever was. Talia tilted her head slightly. Closeness, she repeated slower as if testing whether the word was adequate, her mouth tightened. That sounds incomplete. Noah shook his head. There wasn't sex, there wasn't romance, we weren't lovers. At that, Talia's eyes narrowed slightly, not in disbelief now but in strained confusion, like she was trying to reconcile two incompatible realities she'd been holding at once. I don't even know what Tate thinks we were, Noah admitted. And honestly, now that we're moving into different circles, it doesn't really matter anymore. Talia straightened a little at that. Different circles, she echoed softly, a flicker of concern breaking through her composure. We're not going to be close anymore, Noah said. That made her pause. Her gaze sharpened slightly, studying him more carefully now, as if checking whether this was impulsive or already decided long before today. I'm moving on with my life, Noah continued. I'm tired of not knowing, tired of everything being undefined. Talia exhaled through her nose, slow and quiet. I can understand that, she said, but it sounded more cautious than fully accepting. I don't want anything from Tate, Noah added. I don't want to be his lover, I don't want to be his friend, I don't want to be whatever else people think this is supposed to be. Talia's eyes softened at that last line, but there was a trace of sadness there too, like she recognized the finality in it. He had 14 years to decide what I was, Noah said, voice steadier now, and I would have been fine with whatever he chose, I just liked being with him. Talia's expression tightened briefly at the timeline. 14 years, she murmured almost to herself. But I'm not in love with your son. At that, she looked up sharply, less shocked than recalibrating, like she was trying to accept the statement as truth rather than argument. A small nod followed, slow and uncertain. All right, she said softly, though it didn't fully resolve the tension in her face. We just need to move past each other, Noah continued. It'll probably be better that way. In the real world, things need to mean something or they fall apart. Talia's gaze dropped for a moment at that, then lifted again. That's a very adult way to frame it, she said quietly. And I need to find what I actually want, without him in the middle of it. This time Talia didn't interrupt. She simply watched him for a long moment, something conflicted and maternal settling in her expression, concern, understanding, and a reluctant acceptance that whatever had existed between Noah and her son had reached a point where even she could no longer define it for them. I see, she said at last gently, then I suppose you're already further along than I thought. Noah stood still for a moment, as if saying it out loud forced the memory to stop shifting inside his head. He let out a slow breath. He wasn't lying when he said he wasn't in love with Tate. That realization hadn't arrived all at once. It had fractured over time, small moments accumulating until there was nothing solid left to hold onto. The clearest break from seeing Tate with Emily. Not dramatic, not cruel, just undeniable in a way that didn't invite interpretation. Something had clicked in Noah then, something quiet but final, like a door closing without a sound. Whatever hope he had carried, however unspoken, however undefined, had stopped being sustainable in that moment. After that, he stopped waiting for Tate to become something more intentional with him. Stopped waiting for clarity. Stopped waiting for definition. Because there hadn't been any. Talia watched him carefully, noticing the shift in his expression even if she didn't yet know the exact memory he had landed on. Noah's voice came out more controlled now, less emotional and more structured, like he was sorting the experience into something he could finally leave behind. I think I just stopped hoping he would ever really see me, he said quietly. A pause. I was always there, always available, always the one who stayed. His jaw tightened slightly. And he never really gave me anything to hold onto in return, no clarity, no expectation, no assurance. He shook his head once. It wasn't cruel, he added, more measured now. He didn't set out to hurt me, he just didn't think about it, not in the way I needed him to. Talia's expression softened a fraction, though she didn't interrupt. Noah continued. I think I stayed too long trying to make something meaningful out of something that was just habit to him. A brief quiet exhale. And I'm done doing that. He looked up slightly, more resolved now. I'm not going to be the person who waits around for someone to decide what I am anymore. Talia nodded slowly, absorbing that. And what do you think you were to him? She asked gently. Noah hesitated. Then honestly, I don't think he knew, he said, and I don't think he tried to find out. A pause. I think I was just there. Not an accusation, just a conclusion. Talia looked down for a moment, then back up at him. That may be the most accurate thing you've said all day, she admitted softly. Noah gave a small tired nod. And I'm done being just there. Noah went still. Talia finished her thoughts about Joey and Tim's reactions to how close Tate and Noah were. Talia raised a hand quickly as if anticipating his reaction. Tim and Joey had mixed reactions to your closeness. Not in the way you're thinking, she added, firmer now. It was how he slept, that's what I mean. You have to understand, Noah. Tate has always done that. He would sleep on you or against you or next to you like it was the most natural thing in the world, even when he was younger. Her voice lowered slightly. To Tim, it didn't look like friendship. A pause. And to be fair, she added more quietly, most boys don't do that, not at that age, not consistently, not in front of anyone. Noah looked away, jaw tightening slightly, absorbing it. Talia continued, her tone now more measured but still uneasy. Joey and Tim were thinking about you, a boy in your position, your background. If that kind of situation got out, you would have been the one who suffered for it. They were worried you'd be bullied, that it would follow you through school. She shook her head faintly. It wasn't that they thought you were unworthy of Tate, she said. If anything, it was the opposite. Her eyes returned to Noah. They thought Tate wasn't worthy of you. A brief silence settled between them. Talia let out a slow breath. And then, she added almost reluctantly, I made it worse. Noah glanced up. I mentioned at a women's party that you shared a bed, she admitted. Casually, I didn't think anything of it at the time. Her expression tightened with hindsight. But in this family, in this environment, things spread. She shook her head again. And instead of pulling you both apart like most boys would have done when people started talking, Tate didn't change anything. A pause. That's what made everyone more convinced something existed between you. Her voice softened. Because any other boy would have created distance, especially at that age. She looked at Noah directly now. But he didn't. Another beat. He made sure nothing changed. Talia's expression settled into something conflicted, part admiration, part confusion, part lingering disbelief. And that, she said quietly, is why they thought what they thought. Noah thought of how Tate would find out about Maya and his moving out of Tate's home. He turned to face Talia again, wanting to resolve the issue momentarily. I think it'll be easier coming from you, I said instead. Tate doesn't need a reason to come looking for me if he has the information from you. Easier for you. Yes. Talia looked back toward the house for a moment, then back at me. He's not going to like hearing this. I know. He might think he did something wrong. That's not your problem to explain, I said quietly. Her gaze softened. But it is yours. I didn't answer. A breeze moved through the trees at the edge of the property, rustling the leaves. The driveway felt strangely quiet without the usual sound of Tate's car or his voice echoing from somewhere inside the house. Talia finally exhaled. All right, she said. You'll tell him. I'll tell him what you asked me to tell him, she agreed. Thank you. But, she added, raising a finger slightly, I'm also going to tell him he should probably talk to you himself. I nodded. That's fair, I'll call Tate in the fall once he's settled at Princeton, I lied. She looked at me again, her expression a mix of concern and affection. You're sure about this? I glanced at the car full of boxes, then back at the house. No, I admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. Talia walked over and gave me a brief, tight hug. You're always welcome here, she said quietly, no matter where you're living. I swallowed. I know. She stepped back, studying my face one last time. I'm sorry to put you between both of us, I said quietly. It wasn't my intention, but you know how Tate is. Talia watched me carefully. He gets so obsessed with someone, I continued, choosing my words slowly, that he forgets people move on, they grow, they start different parts of their lives. Her expression softened a little. And I just can't deal with the interrogation, I added with a small, tired smile. You know he'd corner me somewhere and start asking 1,000 questions. I'm not ready for that. Talia nodded slightly. Yes, that does sound like Tate. So maybe it's better this way, I said. Give him time to focus on other things. I'll contact him in a few months, probably after he leaves for college. I'll call him and we can work out the particulars then. Particulars, she repeated with a faint smile. Yeah, I said, shrugging. Whatever people work out when friendships change. She studied me for a moment. as if she suspected there was more behind my words than I was saying. But she didn't push. Instead, she smiled gently. "Well," she said, "are you still going to come by for Sunday dinner?" The question caught me off guard. For years, Sunday dinner had been automatic. I had never even thought about it, it was just something that happened. I shook my head slowly. "I think I should put that on hold for a while." Talia's smile faded just a little, but she nodded. "I understand. I just need some space," I explained. "I'll have to avoid him at school for a bit, but I'll be okay." She looked at me the way someone looks at a person they know is trying to be brave. "Well," she said softly, "if you change your mind, you know where we are." "I know. And if this Maya situation doesn't work out." She gestured lightly toward the house behind her. "You still have a place here." The words hit harder than I expected. "Thanks," I said quietly. Talia's gaze softened even further, the sharpness in her eyes melting into something warmer, deeper, like sunlight breaking through a clouded morning. She stepped closer, lowering her voice but letting every word land heavily in the quiet room. "Regardless of Tate," she said, her tone firm but gentle, "or anything that happens in your life, you're my favorite surrogate son, the boy I never planned to raise." Noah sniffled. Talia reached for Noah's hands and held them tightly between her own. Her eyes were bright with emotion, but her smile never wavered. "No matter what happens between my sons," she said gently, "even if one day the two of you never speak to each other again, I want you to promise me something." She gave his hands a reassuring squeeze. "Promise me that you, Terrence, and I won't be parted. Promise me we'll always be friends. If the worst happens between you and Tate, then Tate will simply have to deal with it. I love both of you, and I'm not going to lose one son because the two of you couldn't find your way to the ending I once hoped for." Her expression softened. "You're our son Noah, our youngest son." She smiled warmly. "Just because your last name is Lunas doesn't mean we love you any less than we love Tate. A surname has never measured the size of a mother's heart. Terrence and I chose you long ago in all the ways that truly matter. You belong with us." A quiet laugh escaped her. "I'll admit something I've never really said aloud. I'm a little disappointed that my two sons didn't end up loving each other in the way I secretly imagined. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I pictured the two of you growing old together, teasing each other over breakfast, arguing over whose turn it was to cook dinner, making up before bedtime, and giving me grandchildren to spoil." She shook her head, smiling at her own daydream. "But dreams are funny things, sometimes they're meant to stay dreams." She looked at Noah with complete sincerity. "And that's perfectly all right." Her voice became lighter. "Sometimes the happiest endings are the ones we never could have imagined. I hope you find whoever makes your heart feel safe and full. I hope Tate does too. Maybe the future waiting for each of you is even more beautiful than the one I pictured." She reached up and brushed a strand of hair away from Noah's forehead like she had done countless times before. "I do love you, Noah, more than you'll probably ever understand." Then she straightened her shoulders with exaggerated importance. "Now, since you're my son, the Blue family has one very important expectation." She lifted a single finger. "You must call me once every week." Her tone became mock serious. "I don't care if it's Monday morning or Saturday night. I don't care if the conversation lasts 30 seconds or 3 hours. I want to hear your voice. I want updates. Tell me about your work, your friends, your terrible cooking, your wonderful cooking, your happiness, your heartbreaks, everything." She narrowed her eyes dramatically. "And if an entire week goes by without hearing from you?" She leaned in closer and lowered her voice to a theatrical whisper. "I will hire a private investigator." She nodded once. "I will track you down." Another solemn nod. "I will locate your hiding place." She paused just long enough for Noah to wonder whether she was joking. And then, she reached over and gently tugged his ear. "I'll pull your ear as punishment for making your mother worry." She couldn't keep the serious expression for another second. It dissolved into bright, infectious laughter. "There," she giggled, "you've been warned." Still laughing, she gave his ear one more playful tug. "So don't test me, young man, I'll find you, mothers always do." Then she wrapped him in a long, comforting embrace and whispered into his shoulder. "No matter where life takes you, you'll always have a home with us. You're our youngest son, and nothing, not distance, not disappointment, not changed dreams, not even time itself, is ever going to change how much Terrence and I love you." Talia smiled warmly, her eyes shining with quiet pride. Terrence and I have made a decision. She reached across the table and rested her hand over Noah's. Since you're a member of this family, maybe not legally, maybe you don't carry our last name, but in every way that truly matters, you're our son. Her smile widened. Our youngest son. She chuckled softly. Terrence has agreed that we're going to establish a trust for you. You'll receive an annual annuity just as Tate does for as long as you remain single. When you get married, we'll help you with a generous down payment for your home so you and your spouse can begin your life together without carrying every burden yourselves. She tilted her head thoughtfully. And if you're blessed with children, your annual sum will increase with each child. Once you're married, there won't be any further increases beyond that because by then our hope is that the trust has helped you build a comfortable, stable life. Noah opened his mouth to speak. She immediately held up a finger. Nope. He blinked. No thank you. Another smile. No gratitude. She squeezed his hand. I mean it. Her voice grew softer. You being part of our lives, Noah, is all the gratitude Terrence and I will ever need. You've given this family laughter, kindness, companionship, loyalty, and love for years. You don't owe us anything in return. She gave him the affectionate look only a mother could. If you insist on paying us back, then you'll do exactly two things. She raised two fingers. First, you'll call me once every week. A grin spread across her face. And second, you'll come to at least 1 or 2 Sunday dinners every month. No excuses unless you're halfway across the world. She laughed. I refuse to let my youngest son disappear simply because he's grown up. Her expression became more earnest. You deserve to have the same opportunities Tate has. Just because my eldest son occasionally behaves like an oblivious ass, she rolled her eyes affectionately, with all of his wonderfully stereotypical heterosexual cluelessness, doesn't mean your parents are going to overlook you. She smiled knowingly. Children don't compete for love in this house, there's enough for both of you. She leaned back in her chair. And if someday you genuinely need an increase to your annual trust distribution, you don't have to feel embarrassed. She folded her hands neatly. Just submit a written request explaining what you need and why. Terrence will look it over, we'll discuss it together and decide what the next step should be. That's simply how the family trust operates. She watched Noah carefully, anticipating the protest forming on his lips. And before you ask. She smiled mischievously. Yes. Tate knows. We told him everything before making the decision. She shrugged lightly. He didn't have any objections. Her eyes softened once again. Because whether either of you says it out loud or not, you've been part of this family for a very long time. She reached over and gently straightened Noah's collar like she had done 100 times before. So don't thank us. Just keep showing up. Call your mothers. And never forget that you'll always have a place at our table. Noah leaned forward without saying a word. He wrapped his arms around Talia and kissed her gently on the cheek. She returned the embrace immediately, holding him tightly as though she were afraid that if she let go too soon, he might disappear again. When they finally pulled apart, Talia smiled through eyes glistening with tears. I've already spoken with Tate about what comes next, she said softly. She folded Noah's hands in hers. When you left, he didn't realize you were planning to be gone for more than a few days. He honestly thought you were simply rebelling, cooling off, or trying to prove a point. She sighed. He didn't understand that your leaving was something much deeper than that. Her expression became thoughtful. Because of everything that's happened, Terrence and I decided to postpone a few of the plans we had concerning you. She smiled apologetically. Not cancel them. Simply postpone them. We didn't think it would be fair to make important family decisions while emotions were still so raw. She gently rubbed the back of Noah's hand with her thumb. I'm going to give you both time. As much time as you need. If the two of you eventually work through your differences, wonderful. If you decide your lives are meant to go in separate directions, then we'll accept that too. She shrugged gently. Life doesn't always unfold according to the schedule we write for ourselves. You'll be away at school. You'll have classes, friends, work, and a future to build. And whatever chapter is left between you and Tate, whether it's reconciliation, forgiveness, or simply accepting that some stories come to an end, that may take months. It may even take years. And that's all right. She smiled with quiet confidence. When you've graduated from college, we'll look at where everyone is. We'll see how life has settled. By then, all of us may see things differently. A small laugh escaped her. I actually had a few plans I wanted to surprise you with around your birthday. She shook her head fondly. But life has a funny way of interrupting even the best intentions. Sometimes circumstances decide the timing for us. Her voice became reassuring once more. So don't feel pressured. Don't feel rushed. Just live your life. Grow. Learn. Become the man you're supposed to become. And when everything has settled, when you've figured out your next steps and whatever needs to be resolved with Tate has been resolved one way or another, all you have to do is call us. She smiled. Or write us a letter. That's all. Tell us where you are in life. Tell us what's on your mind. Then Terrence and I will sit down together just like we always do and decide what the next chapter looks like concerning you and our family. She reached up and cupped Noah's cheek once more. Because there will always be a next chapter. Her smile grew warm. You don't stop being our son simply because life gets complicated. You'll always have parents waiting to hear from you. And no amount of time, distance, or uncertainty is ever going to change that. Noah nodded quietly, absorbing everything without interrupting. Talia exhaled as though she had been holding the explanation in for a long time. She reached into her bag and carefully placed an envelope into his hands. Here, she said gently, there are 2 checks inside. She tapped the envelope once, grounding the moment. The first is your graduation gift, the second is the first payment toward your trust annuity. Her voice softened, becoming more practical now. It will take about 6 months to fully set up the trust properly. There are a lot of documents, structures, and legal components that need to be signed off on by Terrence and the family office. She gave a small apologetic smile. So instead of making you wait, Terrence thought it would be better to simply issue you a direct check for the first year. Talia watched his reaction closely, then added more gently. We've made sure the amount matches what Tate receives at this stage of life. There's no imbalance here, no comparison you need to worry about. She paused, then continued. Careful with her words. And Tate knows everything we're doing, so there's no secrecy, no hidden decisions, nothing you need to feel uncomfortable about. She folded her hands in her lap. In our family structure, Tate is the primary heir. The eldest son traditionally inherits the family estate, assets, properties, everything that has been accumulated through Terrence's line. Her tone stayed calm, almost formal, as if explaining something long established rather than emotional. When Terrence passes, everything he holds, along with what came from his father, grandfather, and extended family holdings, will pass to Tate. She looked at Noah with steady sincerity. That includes everything that remains within the family line, unless there is no heir at all, in which case the structure would shift. A faint knowing sigh left her. We expect Tate to carry that responsibility for a very long time, and if he ever outlives everyone in his generation without children, he would have the freedom to distribute portions outside the family at his discretion. She shook her head slightly, as if to soften how heavy it all sounded. But that's far in the future, and not something anyone is focusing on right now. Talia reached out again, resting her hand lightly over his. You, however, are not outside of this family in the way that matters day to day. Her voice warmed. You receive the same annual support as Tate, the same care, the same investment in your future. A small reassuring smile returned. Because that's what you are to us, Noah, family. She squeezed his hand gently. Paperwork and inheritance structures don't define how we see you. People do. Talia let out a small breath, almost like she'd been holding the moment in suspense just a little too long on purpose. I know the suspense is probably killing you, she said softly, watching his expression closely. Then she gave him a warm, steady smile. The amount we decided on is $200,000 per year. She nodded once as if confirming something settled and final. And I want you to hear me clearly, she added, her tone shifting from light to sincere. This isn't about impressing you or overwhelming you, it's not about comparison, and it's not about status. Her hand rested gently over his again, grounding him. It's because we see you as someone important in our lives. She held his gaze for a moment, letting the words settle. Someone we care about deeply, someone we want to be stable, supported, and able to build a future without unnecessary strain. A faint, affectionate smile returned. You don't have to compete for anything in this family, Noah, not love, not security, not place. She tapped the envelope lightly. This is just us making sure you're taken care of in a way that reflects how much you mean to us. Her voice softened even further. So take it, don't overthink it, and don't turn it into something you feel you need to repay. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat growing, my hands tightening on the box I'd been holding. I wanted to speak, to tell her she didn't understand, that staying away from her and leaving Tate wasn't just about avoiding pain, it was survival, but the words stuck in my chest. Leave Tate if that is what is right for you, she said softly, almost like she was giving me permission but also urging me to act. Start something with a girl if that's what you need to do, but I'm your mom, you can't run from me, you won't run from me, I won't let you. Her intensity made me flinch, even as it warmed me in a way that left my heart aching. She won't let me vanish, she won't let me hide, and somehow that terrifies me as much as it comforts me. I shifted my weight, still avoiding her gaze, still trying to push the emotions down, but her words lingered like a fire under ice. I don't know if I can do that, I admitted quietly, my voice cracked, betraying me despite my best efforts. I can't promise anything right now. Talia's expression softened, but she didn't let me off. She studied me as she could see straight into the part of me I refused to acknowledge, even myself. He's scared. He thinks leaving Tate will protect him from pain, but he doesn't realize how much he's leaving behind, and how much he'll miss if he cuts himself off from love in every form. You don't have to know everything right now, she said, reaching out to gently rest her hand on my shoulder. But I need you to understand this, Noah, you're not alone, you're never alone, and no matter what choices you make, you can't pretend I'm not here, you can't hide from me. I looked at her finally, really looked, and for the first time in days I let the truth of her words pierce through my stubborn defenses. She's my mom, she's always been here, and even if I leave Tate, even if I hide myself away for a while, I can't disappear from her. Her hand lingered on my shoulder, warm and steady, as she gave a small, sad smile. I love you, Noah, she said softly, almost as if just saying it would anchor me. Nothing in this world, not Tate, not anyone, changes that, not a single thing. I swallowed hard, the tightness in my chest loosening just slightly. I love you too, I whispered, though my voice sounded small, almost fragile. The truth of it felt heavy and necessary, like finally breathing after holding my breath for years. Talia nodded, satisfaction and relief in her gaze, though she still held the firmness that kept me grounded. Good, that's all I need. Remember, Noah, you're my son, my beloved son, and no matter what happens, I'm here, always. I let her words settle, heavy and comforting, even as the boxes in my hands reminded me how much I was carrying, how far I still had to go, and how much courage it would take to leave Tate behind, even just for a little while. I hesitated at the car, my hand hovering over the handle. The night air felt heavier than usual, thick with expectation. I didn't move. Talia's hand landed on my shoulder, firm and deliberate, pulling me back. What's really going on, Noah? She whispered. I didn't answer. I kept my gaze on the ground, tight-lipped and still, letting the shadows hide the part of me that wanted to flee. My back was facing her front profile, and I made no effort to turn around when he talked. Her eyes softened, but the sharp edge remained. She stepped in front of me, closing the space between us, forcing me to look at her. Why are you leaving? She pressed. And don't give me that story about a new house-sitting job or a new girl. I can see through it. You're running from something or someone, and I'm not blind. I remained silent, still and deliberate, gripping the edges of the box in my hands. Talia leaned closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. Noah, talk to me. Was it Tate? Did he do something? Did he cross a line? Or is this something else? I didn't flinch, didn't respond. I just shifted the boxes slightly, keeping my expression neutral. Because people don't just pack up their lives and leave the house they've grown up in without a reason, she continued, her words measured but insistent. You're not the kind to do this lightly, so tell me, was it him? Still nothing? I let my silence stretch, letting it press against her, letting her frustration grow without a word. Tate couldn't stop being straight, and that reality made it impossible for me to stay and be okay about it. She sighed, an almost imperceptible sound, but her eyes never wavered from mine. Not saying anything tells me something, it tells me everything. I can see it, Noah, the way you avoid my gaze, the way you're holding those boxes like they're the only things keeping you upright. I can feel it. I know something is wrong. I shifted slightly, but my posture didn't break. My face remained unreadable, my jaw tight, my eyes on the ground. Talia's voice softened, edged with concern. Is it emotional? Is he hurting you in ways I should know about? Did he manipulate you? I need to know, Noah. If there's even a shadow of a chance he's mistreated you, I need you to tell me. Her hands went to her hips, frustration lacing her voice. Don't tell me you're leaving because you think it's easier than facing reality. Don't do that to yourself, Noah. You think you're protecting yourself, but all you're doing is hiding. And I won't let you hide from me, not now, not ever. I let her words wash over me, but I didn't respond. I didn't give her the satisfaction of an answer, of an acknowledgement. I stood there, quiet and measured, while she spoke, her words building in urgency and emotion. Are you mad at me? Are you angry about something I did, or someone I trusted? She asked, taking a careful step closer, her voice soft but demanding. Because I can handle honesty. You can tell me the truth, Noah. I won't flinch. I need to know what's going on with you. I breathed in slowly, keeping my posture rigid, letting her words strike without breaking me. I didn't answer. I let her pour herself out while I remained still, an unmoving figure beneath the weight of her concern. My hands are shaking slightly. He wants me to be someone I can't be, I said, my voice tight with frustration and grief. And I'm done trying, I'm done lying to him. I've given everything I have, and it's still not enough. I can't keep living my life bending myself to his needs, his fears, or his panic. It's breaking me. She paused, studying me like a puzzle she couldn't solve. Then softer now, almost a whisper, promise me you're okay. Promise me you're making this decision for yourself and not because someone else made you feel small or invisible or trapped. Because if you're leaving to save yourself, I can understand that, but if you're leaving for the wrong reasons, Noah, I will not let you do that. I shifted slightly, my hands tightening on the box again, keeping my gaze downward, keeping my expression blank. No tears, no words, no flinch. I let her continue to speak, questioning, pleading, reasoning, but I stood my ground, silent, composed, a wall she couldn't scale. I'm not okay, I said, my voice low and cracking, and I'd rather be alone and miserable than be next to Tate while feeling alone and miserable. Talia's lips pressed together, her hands clenching in her lap as she struggled to hold back tears. She looked at me, her eyes filled with both worry and exasperation. He's hurting so much, but he doesn't understand what leaving will do to Tate, she thought, heart aching. Noah, I hear you, she said softly but firmly, leaning slightly forward. I know you feel trapped, exhausted, like you've given everything and there's nothing left, but leaving him like this, it won't just make you okay, it will destroy him. I shook my head, voice rising with desperation. Talia, you don't get it. I've tried, I've given everything I have, and it's never enough. Being near him doesn't make me feel whole, it makes me feel worse. Miserable, empty. I can't keep sacrificing myself for someone else's survival. Finally, after what felt like hours, she let out a breath, her hands falling to her sides. I don't know what to do with you, she murmured, half to herself, half to me. You're maddening, Noah, but you're my son, my beloved son, and nothing in this world will change that. I stayed silent, letting her words sink in around me. Her determination, her insistence, her unwavering love pressed against me like a weight I couldn't ignore, even as I remained unmoving. What happened? Why did you leave your birthday party and stay away for days? She asked, her voice low, tight with concern. I let out a quiet sigh, staring at the ground. I'm stupid, I said finally, my words clipped. I'm stupid for dreaming, for wanting stupid things. And I woke up realizing that being stupid or wanting stupid things in 1986 isn't making me happy, and I'm done acting like I'm happy. Her lips trembled and I noticed the faint quiver in her chest as she exhaled sharply. Stupid, she repeated softly, almost incredulous. You think it's stupid to want something, to hope for something that makes you happy. Noah, that's not stupid, that's being alive, that's normal, that's human. I didn't answer. I kept my gaze on the floor, letting the silence stretch between us. She took a careful step closer, reaching out as if to bridge the distance I'd created. You're not stupid, Noah, you're not foolish. Wanting something, dreaming for something, it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you a failure. You're scared, yes, but being scared doesn't erase what you deserve. Don't call yourself stupid for wanting happiness. Her voice cracked just slightly, a tremor hidden beneath her gentle insistence. You think leaving will fix it, that walking away will make things simpler. Noah, listen to me, you can't run from yourself, you can't hide from what you feel. That's not stupid, that's you trying to survive, but calling it stupid, that breaks my heart. I shifted slightly, still silent, my hands tightening around the box I held. My chest felt heavy, and yet my words remained locked inside. Talia's eyes softened, her gaze unwavering, holding mine even as I refused to look back. You think being brave is always about staying. Sometimes being brave is walking away, yes, but don't mistake that for thinking you're wrong for feeling or wanting anything. You're not stupid, Noah, not for dreaming, not for feeling, not for wanting a life that makes sense to you. I drew in a slow breath, letting her words wash over me without a response. She studied my face, her lip trembling again, her hands almost lifting to reach me, but she stopped, letting me have the silence I seemed to need. I exhaled quietly, a sound heavier than words, and finally let the word leave my lips. Goodbye. It was flat, final, no tone hinted we'd meet again. Her eyes glistened and I could feel her chest rise and fall in quiet agony, but she let the word hang heavy as a stone in the space between us. He's hurting himself, she thought, her mind racing, but he won't let me help. He thinks he's protecting himself. He thinks he's making a choice, but he's just shutting the world out, and I can't stop him, not yet. I didn't turn, I didn't speak further. I simply walked toward the car, letting the night swallow me, letting goodbye echo behind me as the final, unchangeable punctuation on the choice I'd already made. Talia stepped back toward the porch, watching as I climbed into the driver's seat of my car. For a moment, neither of us said anything, then she gave me a small wave. Take care of yourself, Noah. I will. I hugged Talia quickly before I climbed into the car. She had always been like a mom to me, warm and steady, the kind of presence that made the house feel like a home. I wanted to linger, wanted to soak up every second of her quiet comfort, but I couldn't. Not now. Not when every heartbeat reminded me of why I needed to put as much distance between us as possible. I started the engine, the familiar sound filling the quiet driveway. As I pulled away from the house, I resisted the urge to look back, because I had the strange feeling that if I saw the front door, the porch, the place where so much of my life had happened, I might not be able to keep driving. The engine started, the familiar rumble filling the quiet driveway. I didn't look back at the house. The front door, the porch, the windows, they were all part of a life I was leaving behind, a life I'd loved and lost in ways that didn't make sense to anyone but me. I cried the whole drive to an apartment I was house-sitting at for the next few weeks. Tate had stolen my second family from me, but it was really my feelings that took the blues out of my orbit. I drove all the way to my new residence, a quadplex divided into 4 small apartments. A young woman, spending the summer touring Paris, had asked someone to house it so her second-story apartment would stay secure while she was away. I'd gotten a letter of recommendation from my science teacher, and she had me start 2 days after my 18th birthday. The loft was beautiful, but I chose to sleep on the couch. I couldn't bear the thought of lying in a bed, it reminded me too much of Tate. I could already imagine his rage, smashing everything in his parents' house. Ironically, Talia, since Tate was 13, had removed anything valuable, and everything Tate had broken had been a cheap imitation ceramic. Tate would not have let me leave, he wouldn't accept it at all. I could picture him scanning the phone book for my new number or hiring a private investigator to track me down. I tried to avoid school whenever possible, especially during his free periods, just to keep some distance from him. It was 1 week until graduation. Because I was the valedictorian, I didn't have to attend the last few days of classes except to take a few remaining tests in the administration office. That gave me the perfect excuse to avoid the chaos of the halls and, most importantly, to avoid Tate. On Monday morning, I moved carefully through the school, taking side corridors, stairwells nobody used often, anything that kept me out of the main traffic of students. Every laugh echoing down a hallway, every group of friends clustered around lockers, reminded me how intertwined I'd been in a life that wasn't mine anymore. I didn't want to bump into Tate, not even for a second. Not his smirk, not his casual way of leaning against a locker, not the effortless charm that had dominated my life for years. My stomach tightened every time I imagined him rounding a corner, seeing me with Maya, seeing me moving on, and realizing how completely I had chosen to step out of his orbit. The main reason I avoided Tate was simple. I knew exactly what would happen if he got near me. He would grab my arms, shove me against a wall or some hard surface, and hold me there, looking down at me as if trying to intimidate me in the most absurdly theatrical way. Tate always got what he wanted, and he had made it very clear over 14 years of knowing each other what that meant. The one thing he wanted most wasn't a possession or a game or a secret, it was me. In his house, by his side, in his bed, and under his control. Anything that threatened that world, anything that could rock it even slightly, Tate would not permit to exist. It was strange, stepping into this last stretch of school life with a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. At the same time, it was terrifying. Every glance, every passing teacher, every familiar face felt loaded with memories, reminders of who I had been and what I was leaving behind. But I didn't care. I had made my choice. Every careful step I took down the back corridors, every quiet moment in the empty stairwells, every careful detour around a familiar face was part of putting distance, not just physically but emotionally, between me and the world Tate had dominated for so long. It hurt more than I wanted to admit, but it was necessary because if I lingered, if I let myself be seen, I would never be free, and I needed freedom. When Tate got home from school on Friday, he saw his mother sitting in the living room, unusually still, her hands folded in her lap. "What's going on?" he asked, frowning. "You're normally at your yoga class this time of day." She gestured toward the couch. "Sit down for a minute, please." Tate hesitated, a strange feeling gnawing in his stomach. Something was off. He wondered briefly if someone in the family had died. That was usually the only time his mom sat like this, waiting with that odd mix of solemnity and apprehension. "Noah came by today," Talia said, trying to sound casual. Tate's cheeks widened, a sudden rush of pink flooding his face as if someone had poured sunlight straight into his veins. His mother had just said the name of his favorite person in the world, Noah. The sound of it struck something deep in him, and for a moment he could barely breathe. It had been days, endless, unbearable days without him, and now, the thought that Noah was here sent a surge of light and heat through every part of Tate's body. He could feel the static hum of joy buzzing under his skin, a vibration so intense he wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. Noah back, really back, alive, present somewhere in this house. Tate could hardly believe it, yet he knew it. That certainty, that truth wrapped around him and made everything else fade. His schoolwork, his routines, the dull ache of waiting, all of it vanished in a single instant, leaving only pure, pulsing happiness. His heart leapt in his chest, and a smile wide, unstoppable, spread across his face, tugging at the corners of his lips until his cheeks ached. His eyes shone bright and almost ridiculous in their intensity, fixed somewhere in the air as though he could already see Noah without turning his head. Every sound in the house felt charged with meaning, a footstep, a creak, a whisper from his mother. Each one confirmed it, Noah was here, right here. Tate's entire body seemed to vibrate with anticipation. He could feel the energy coiling in him like a spring waiting for release. He imagined Noah somewhere nearby, oblivious to the storm of delight building just for him, and it made Tate want to burst out of his skin. Every nerve in his body hummed with longing and joy. The thought of finding him, of touching him, of pulling him close made the air around Tate feel almost too bright, too hot, too alive. He laughed softly, a sound half incredulous, half triumphant, like a boy who had found treasure where he thought there was none. The little blonde rascal, the one person who made everything else irrelevant, had returned. And Tate knew with a certainty that left no room for doubt that nothing else in the world mattered except getting to him. The goal crystallized in Tate's mind, sharp and simple: find Noah, pull him upstairs, keep him close, protect him, claim him. Every other thought, every other impulse dissolved into a single beam of ecstatic purpose. The world had shrunk to the size of the house, and the only thing that existed inside it was Noah and the dizzying, all-consuming happiness of knowing he was back. Tate's breath came faster, his pulse racing in sync with the beat of his heart. He could hardly stand still, the thrill making his fingers tingle and his legs jitter. He wanted to move, to leap, to shout, to throw himself into Noah's arms, anything, everything, just to make sure that he was really here. The house, the rooms, the walls, they didn't matter. All that mattered was the electric, unstoppable truth that Noah was back. And for Tate, that meant the world was suddenly perfect. Once Tate realized Noah had been in the house, an urgent need to find him surged through every fiber of his being. He barreled from room to room on the ground floor, shouting Noah's name, the sound rough and breathless, full of desperation. He ducked into the kitchen, the living room, even the small den, searching every corner, every shadow, as if Noah might vanish completely if he didn't move fast enough. His voice bounced off the walls, echoing in the empty spaces, each reverberation amplifying the ache in his chest. Panic rose inside him, sharp and metallic, a frantic knot that tightened with every unanswered call. Tate sniffed the air, straining for that faint trace of Noah's scent, the subtle cologne that lingered like a memory, a tether to the boy he loved. The thought of Noah hiding, of being just out of reach, made his chest ache with longing. Every step, every shout, every corner he turned carried the weight of his love, the fierce, tender obsession he could no longer hide. He needed Noah not just because he wanted him, but because the world felt incomplete without him. Tate's heart pounded with a singular, unshakable truth: that little blonde rascal was his, and finding him was the only thing that mattered. Even in the chaos of panic, even in the sharp bite of fear, every fiber of Tate's being radiated love, deep, overwhelming, and entirely devoted. After rummaging through every room on the bottom level of the house, desperately calling for Noah, Tate sank to the floor, shoulders shaking, tears streaming down his face. He was blubbering uncontrollably, his sobs echoing off the walls. His father leaned against the staircase, arms crossed, watching him with a mixture of disdain and impatience, as if Tate's pain was some kind of theatrical display meant only to embarrass the family. "Calm down," Tate's father muttered, his voice low and disapproving. "Noah, where are you?" Tate yelled, his voice cracking. He banged on doors, flung open closets, peered under furniture, and scanning frantically as if sheer force of will could make Noah appear. Before he could rush toward the staircase, his mother stepped in, her hand firm on his chest, stopping him mid-step. "He's not here," she said, calm but unwavering. Tate froze, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face. "What do you mean he's not here?" His voice rose, tight with panic and anger. "He's not here," she repeated. Her tone was steady, precise, like she was stating a fact that didn't need arguing. Tate's gaze snapped toward the corner where his father sat, leaning back in his chair as if the entire scene were a segment on reality television. He didn't move, didn't intervene, he just watched, calm, almost amused, letting Tate's panic unfold. The sight only stoked Tate's frustration. "He has to be here," Tate shouted, fists clenching, teeth grinding. "He was here a few hours ago, I saw him," Talia said. Tate frowned. "What's going on? Where is he?" Before she could answer, Talia stepped into his space, calm but deliberate. His chest tightened. She always had a way of delivering news that left him wishing for a softer landing. "Tate," she said, her voice careful, "I think you need to know." He felt a chill run down his spine. "Where is he? I heard he was sick, but I didn't hear much after that." Tate glanced at his mom, then back at Terrence. "He moved out," Talia explained. The moment Talia told him Noah had moved out that day, something inside Tate snapped. He lunged at the nearest objects, hurling them across the room, shoving them off tables, crushing fragile items under his foot. Glass shattered, papers scattered, and the walls seemed to tremble with the force of his fury. Tate shook his head violently, refusing to listen. The world blurred around him, nothing mattered except the absence of Noah. Every rational word from his family bounced off him like a stone skipping across a lake. He wanted Noah. Needed Noah, and the thought that he might be gone forever made the room spin. "I don't care," Tate whimpered, his voice cracking. "I don't care what anyone says, I just want him back." But even as Tate said it, he knew he couldn't reach him. His hands clenched into fists, nails digging into his palms as he rocked back and forth on the floor. The house felt empty, colder somehow, and every corner seemed to whisper Noah's absence. He wanted to scream, to rage, to make the world undo what had happened, but the only thing he could do was sit there, helpless, drenched in tears and clinging to the impossible. His father stood frozen for a moment, eyes narrowing in disgust. "Put down your mother's valuables," he barked, voice sharp with restrained anger. "Do you even know what that—" He stopped as Tate's foot crushed a delicate vase into pieces. "The blonde is gone," Terrence shouted. "No," Tate's voice ragged, tears streaking his face. "He's not gone." "Accept it, move on, act like the person you were born to be," his father ordered, his expression hardening. "It's embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing." Tate froze, fists still clenched, chest heaving. The words hit him like ice, cutting through his rage. And yet, even in that moment, the emptiness left by Noah's absence screamed louder than anything his father could say. The shattered vase at his feet was nothing compared to the pieces of himself he felt scattered across the room. Tate froze. "What do you mean he moved out? He would never move out. Why would he? What's going on?" "Tate, honey," she said more gently, choosing her words carefully, Noah met a girl named Maya. That part landed first, sharp, unexpected, like a detail that didn't belong in the same sentence as what Tate had been hopping for. Talia didn't stop there because stopping would have made it worse. He's got a job now too, house-sitting. He's been trying to get things in order for himself. A pause. And he moved out because he's transitioning from high school into college in the fall. He wanted a clean break, a real start. The hallway stayed the same light, same quiet, but everything inside it had shifted. Talia's voice softened again at the end, not trying to erase the truth, just making sure it didn't hit like a blow without warning. Tate didn't listen. He ignored his father's orders, ignoring the sharp sting of reprimand. Instead, he collapsed to the floor, body trembling violently, shoulders shaking as if the world itself were crushing him. His sobs erupted in ragged gasps, high-pitched and raw, spilling out of him like a flood he couldn't contain. After Terrence told Tate that Noah had moved out and was gone from his life for good, Tate's world collapsed. He fell to the floor, wailing and blubbering, each cry raw and ragged, a sound that seemed too big for the room. His grief was physical, twisting through him, knocking the breath from his lungs. His father left the room, and poor Talia, Tate's mother, froze, unsure what to do as her son curled into a fetal position, trembling and inconsolable. All at once, everything Tate had known felt hollow. Noah, the blonde, sweet boy who had promised to stay, who had been his constant, his anchor, his favorite person, was gone. For some reason, inexplicably, he had abandoned Tate, leaving a hollow ache where trust, warmth, and companionship had once lived. Tate mourned more than just his presence. He mourned the very shape of their relationship, the gentle laughter, the quiet moments, the shared world that had existed only between them. All Tate wanted, all he could imagine wanting, was Noah. The boy's body, his touch, and the subtle trace of him in a shared space. Tate's grief clawed for it, desperate and unrelenting. The thought that Noah had left, leaving Tate behind, was unbearable. The promise that had been broken echoed in every sob, every shudder of his chest, every tear that fell. Tate's love, fierce, unfiltered, and consuming, was now grief, raw and heavy, and it filled the room with the weight of all he had lost. Even amidst the absurdity of the scene, an 18-year-old, attractive, popular, and wealthy boy reduced to racking sobs over a male companion, the heartbreak was undeniable. Tate's world had crumbled, and the only thing that could restore it was the boy who was gone. I want Noah," he wailed, clutching at the empty air as if he could pull him back into his arms. I want Noe." Tears streamed down his face, mixing with the sweat of his exertion, and he rocked back and forth, curling into himself like an infant. Every rational thought had vanished. There was only this all-consuming, agonizing absence and the unbearable ache of loss. His father watched from upstairs, expression tight, lips pressed into a thin line as if Tate's display were both incomprehensible and intolerable. This is pathetic," he said finally, voice low but sharp. "You are a grown man and yet you behave like a child throwing a tantrum." But Tate didn't hear him, he couldn't. There was only Noah, and the echo of his absence was tearing through every fiber of Tate's being. Tate slumped further onto the cold floor, curling into a tight fetal position as if he could somehow make the world smaller, somehow make Noah appear again. His body shook violently, racked with sobs that ripped from deep in his chest, each one raw and uncontrollable. He kicked out blindly, his heels smashing against furniture, glass, and the hardwood floor, the noise a chaotic echo of his fury and despair. Noah," he screamed, his voice cracking and rising higher with every call. I want him back." He clawed at the carpet, at the air, at anything that could somehow fill the emptiness inside him. His tears streaked his face, mixing with the sweat of his exertion, and he gasped for breath between each ragged wail. Tate was hysterical, afraid his former closest companion was gone forever, and the sensitive boy with hazel eyes couldn't cope with that reality. Noah," he screamed, his voice cracking and rising higher with every call. I want him back." He clawed at the carpet, at the air, at anything that could somehow fill the emptiness inside him. His tears streaked his face, mixing with the sweat of his exertion, and he gasped for breath between each ragged wail. Talia leaned closer, reaching out gently, her hands trembling slightly. Tate, honey, calm down," she whispered, but he flung her hands away as though what she said was venom, his shrieks only growing louder. No, I don't care, I want Noah, he's mine." He thrashed so violently that he rolled onto his side, curling into himself again, muffling his cries into the crook of his arm. He kicked his legs, pounding the floor, rocking back and forth like a small child who has lost everything. His sobs became hiccuping gasps, a torrent of grief that seemed to shake the walls of the house itself. Talia tried again, softer this time, almost pleading. Tate, sweetie, I'm here, you'll be okay. But Tate could hear nothing but the emptiness left by Noah's absence. No, no, you don't understand, he can't be gone, he can't, I need him, I need him. His fists pounded the floor, his nails gouging shallow grooves into the wood, his screams echoing down the hall like a storm. He shook his head violently, hair sticking to his wet cheeks, sobbing so hard his chest heaved uncontrollably. Tate lay on his stomach on the living room floor, hot tears streaking his cheeks, his body trembling as he blubbered uncontrollably. His wails tore from him, ragged and desperate. I want him back, he gasped between sobs, voice cracking under the weight of his need. I don't care if you have to put a bag over his head to bring him home or spend money to track him down, I want him back. Make me happy or I'll keep screaming. I want what I want, and if you don't give me what I want, I'll make you all miserable until I get what I want. The sound of his own words only seemed to fuel the intensity, and he screamed again, raw and ragged, the room vibrating with his anguish. His mother froze, shock rooting her to the spot, unsure how to respond as her 18-year-old son, attractive, wealthy, and normally composed, became a tangle of grief, rage, and obsession on the floor. Tate's entire being seemed consumed by one single, unshakable truth. Noah was gone and nothing else mattered. Every rational thought, every sense of decorum, every social boundary had evaporated. All that existed was the desperate need to reclaim the boy who had been his closest companion, the one whose absence felt like a gaping wound in his world. Minutes, or was it hours, passed in this relentless tide of grief. Tate rolled onto his back now, kicking his legs and flailing his arms, blubbering incoherently. Noah, Noah, don't leave me, don't go. His voice was raw, torn, desperate, a sound so human and broken it could make anyone watching ache. Finally exhausted but still trembling, he curled back into himself, a quivering mass of tears, snot, and anguish. He hiccuped and whimpered, his cries softer now but no less pained until only muffled gasps remained. Talia sat quietly on the couch, hands folded, waiting, her heart breaking for him, knowing there was no quick fix, no words to soothe what he had lost. She simply let him ride the storm, hoping that eventually somehow he would find a moment's calm amid the wreckage of his heart. Talia sat down next to him on the couch, her tone gentle but firm. He met a girl, Maya, and he's with her. The words hit Tate like a punch. He couldn't breathe for a second. What? No, he wouldn't. Talia nodded. Yes, he brought some boxes today and took everything in one trip. He sank back into the couch, his mind scrambling. His room, the boxes, the familiar presence that had dominated his life for years, it was all gone, out of reach, shifted into someone else's hands. He couldn't wrap his head around it. He'd never, I don't understand. Talia exchanged a look, both sympathetic but unable to offer a simpler explanation. He's 18, Talia said softly. Sometimes people make choices we don't expect. This is his choice. His chest ached with Maya. He's just gone. Yes, Talia said gently, and he's happy. That's all we need to know for now. Tate leaned back, staring at the ceiling, his thoughts a jumble of disbelief, loss, and the strange sense that his world had just shifted without his permission. Tate sat on the hard wood, staring at the floor, unable to process the words. Noah had moved out. Noah had met a girl, Maya, and taken his things in one trip like he had no ties to this house or to Tate at all. The walls felt smaller, tighter, as if the air itself had been pulled out of the room. He couldn't breathe. Every memory of shared afternoons, late-night talks, the times he had laughed and wrestled again with Noah, came crashing back, and each one cut deeper. Maya, the name alone felt like a punch. He imagined Noah with her, laughing, smiling, and touching her in ways he had never been allowed to. The jealousy flared hot and sharp. He couldn't stop seeing it, couldn't stop imagining Noah leaning into someone else's arms, resting his head against someone who wasn't Tate. Talia's gentle presence beside him barely registered. He felt trapped between disbelief and rage. He couldn't understand how Noah could leave like this, how he could just erase years of closeness as if it had meant nothing. 18, Talia repeated softly. Sometimes people make choices we don't expect. Tate's chest tightened and he barely heard her. Choices, yes, that was what it was. Noah had chosen Maya over him. Chosen someone else's life, someone else's bed, someone else's arms. All the little intimacies they had shared, the things he had thought were theirs alone, suddenly felt fragile and meaningless. His hands clenched into fists. The thought of Noah laughing at Maya's jokes, leaning into her, sharing his warmth with someone else drove a wave of nausea through him. He had always imagined a future, no, not just imagined, he had assumed Noah was his. The thought that Noah had quietly, without confrontation, moved in with another person shattered every illusion he had built around their relationship. He wanted to scream, he wanted to throw something. He wanted Noah to appear in the doorway and tell him it was a joke, tell him he hadn't actually left. But of course, Noah wasn't coming back, not this time, not ever. The room seemed impossibly silent. The ticking of a clock in the background mocked him. Every second stretched unbearable until it felt like his heart itself had fractured. Finally, he stood abruptly. The couch sagged under his weight. He needed air, needed distance from Talia's calm voice, from the sight of the boxes in the driveway, from the crushing reality. He stepped outside, inhaling the spring air, but it didn't help. Everything still felt wrong. Maya, that name repeated itself in his mind like a cruel echo. And with it came a truth he couldn't deny. Noah had moved on, and Tate was left with nothing but memories, heartbreak, and a jealousy so raw it ached in his bones. Tate had no right and no claim to Noah, he knew that. But his mind refused to stop imagining all the ways he could have stopped this, kept Noah close, protected what was theirs. The anger, the hurt, and the longing all twisted together into a single, searing knot in his chest. He wanted to cry, but there were no tears left. He wanted to yell, but his voice was gone. All that remained was the hollow ache of loss, echoing louder than any laughter or argument ever had. And as he looked at the empty driveway, at the place where the car that had carried Noah and his boxes away used to sit, Tate knew with a cold certainty that nothing, no manipulation, no charm, no memory of closeness would ever bring Noah back. Maya had him now, and Tate was alone. Tate's cheeks were streaked with tears, smeared down his face as he sobbed uncontrollably. His hands and feet tore through the remnants of his world, papers shredded, vases crushed, furniture dented and scratched. Nothing made sense anymore. Nothing would ever make sense again. Noah was gone, just gone, and every rational thought he tried to hold on to evaporated the instant it formed. Why did he leave? Tate thought, rocking slightly as he grabbed at a broken lamp, flinging it across the room. Did I do something wrong? Did I scare him away? Why didn't he tell me I needed him? He screamed it aloud anyway. I want Noah, I need him. His own voice startled him. It was so loud, so desperate, like a warning to the world that he couldn't handle this, that nothing made sense. From upstairs came his father's irritated bark. Keep it down, I'm trying to nap. Tate froze for a moment, the words barely registering. Trying to nap, he thought bitterly. Does he even care that I'm falling apart? Is everything broken inside me? No, he just wants quiet. I'm nothing to him. I don't matter. He stumbled toward his bedroom, eyes blurred with tears and rage. The door slammed behind him with a violent crash, breaking and hanging crookedly off its hinges. Dust floated in the sunlight streaming through the window. Everything's breaking, Tate thought. Everything's falling apart, just like me. Tate dove under the bed, dragging his blanket with him, and curled into himself. Thumb instinctively found his mouth, a small, shameful comfort that made him feel a tiny spark of safety. I'm a baby, he thought, rocking slightly under the bed. I'm acting like a child, but I can't be a man right now. I just want Noah. The sobs quieted into small hiccups and whimpers, but the ache in his chest didn't subside. He's gone, he's really gone, and nobody sees me, nobody cares, I'm just me alone, always alone. He clutched the blanket tighter, pressing his face into the worn fabric. I can't breathe, I can't think, I just want him back, I want him to be here, I can't do this without him. The room outside felt impossibly loud and suffocating. His father's nap, the broken door, the ruined furniture, all of it pressed against his mind like it was mocking him. The world is cruel, everyone is cruel, and he's gone. Noah, why did you leave me? Under the bed, Tate allowed himself to collapse completely into helplessness, into the regression he could no longer fight. Thumb in his mouth, blanket wrapped tight, small sobs still escaping, he clung to the fragile comfort of a world where maybe, just maybe, he could pretend Noah wasn't really gone, if only for a few more minutes. I'll wait here, I'll wait forever if I have to, just come back, please come back. Where is he? Tate begged, his voice tight, raw with panic. Mom, please, what's the address? I need to talk to him, please tell me where he is. His hands trembled, gripping the edge of the couch as if he held on hard enough that he could stop the world from moving without him. Talia sighed softly as she stood by his door, a mixture of sympathy and inevitability in her expression. She sat on his bed, crossing her arms. Tate, she said gently, he said he'll call you in the fall, after college starts. Tate felt as if the floor had dropped out from under him, the words barely registered at first. He said what? His throat tightened and a lump rose in his chest. He'll reach out when he's ready, Talia repeated, softer this time, like she was trying to protect him from the full weight of reality. Tate shook his head violently, desperation clawing at him. No, I can't wait that long, I need to. He can't just leave like this. I need to talk to him now, I need to know why, Mom, please. She looked at him steadily, unflinching, her tone firm but kind. You have to let him make his choice, Tate. He's moved on, he'll contact you when he's ready, that's all we can do. He slumped back against the floor under his bed, the weight of helplessness crushing him. His chest felt like it was caving in, every heartbeat echoing the truth he didn't want to face. Noah had moved on. He had chosen a life without Tate in it for now, and there was nothing Tate could do to change it. A few hours later, Tate crawled out from under his own bed and dove on the mattress, covering his whole body with the blue duvet he usually shared with Noah each night. Downstairs, Joey stepped out from the pantry, wiping his hands on a towel. He had chosen to stay the weekend, knowing that his nephew was prone to spiraling whenever things went wrong. The moment he saw Tate curled under the blanket, body trembling, he sighed. There's my favorite nephew, Joey said, bending down and wrapping his arms around him. Tate shrieked, squirming violently, flinging himself away from Joey's touch, diving deeper under the covers. His thumb instinctively found its mouth again and he rocked slightly, hiccuping between muffled cries. Joey froze, his arms still half extended in the air where Tate had just been. The reaction hit harder than if Tate had struck him. Slowly, Joey straightened, his expression shifting from warmth to something more uncertain, more careful. Hey, it's all right, he said gently, lowering his voice as if approaching a frightened animal. Nobody's going to hurt you, kid. But Tate wasn't listening. He curled tighter beneath the covers, shoulders shaking, thumb pressed hard between his lips as if it were the only thing keeping him together. I want Noe, he sobbed again, the name breaking apart in his mouth. I want him, make him come back. His words dissolved into sharp, uneven breaths, his body rocking with the force of it. He kicked suddenly at the mattress, heels thudding in frantic bursts, twisting his body as if he could escape the feeling clawing through his chest. Joey glanced over his shoulder, searching the room for help that wasn't coming fast enough. Tate, he tried again, softer this time, crouching a little but not reaching out. You got to breathe for me, all right? Just slow down. No, Tate shrieked, his voice cracking high and raw. He flung an arm out from under the covers, knocking blindly at anything within reach, his fingers clawing at the sheets before yanking them tighter around himself. I want Noe, not you, never you. His body jerked with each word, breath hitching violently as the tantrum overtook him completely, his cries rising into broken, desperate wails. The mattress creaked under the force of his thrashing. He buried his face deeper into the pillow, then tore it away again with a frustrated cry as if even that small comfort betrayed him. His legs kicked again, faster now, restless and uncontrolled, while his free hands struck weakly against the bed in uneven, frantic rhythms. Bring him back, Tate sobbed. You have to. Joey exhaled slowly, steadying himself, keeping his distance even as every instinct told him to step in. I can't just do that, Tate, he said carefully, voice low and even. But I'm here, all right, you're not alone. Don't want you? Tate shot back instantly, shaking his head so hard it made his words stutter. Go away, you're not him, just go away. He curled in on himself again, rocking harder now, thumb forced back into his mouth as his cries turned muffled but no less intense, his whole body trembling with the weight of it. The room filled with the sound of him, raw, jagged, relentless, until even the walls seemed to hold their breath. And Joey, standing there with nothing left to offer but quiet patience, realized this wasn't something he could fix. Tate wasn't just upset. Tate was unraveling. You're 18 years old, Tate, Joey said, frustration cutting through his tone. Man up, stop with the blubbering, you're embarrassing the family. Grab your blanket, you can sleep with me if you're scared. Tate whimpered, hiding his face completely beneath the blankets, unresponsive except for the occasional twitch of a foot or a flailing hand. His entire body shook with grief, anger, and humiliation, trapped somewhere between childhood and adulthood. Joey straightened, his patience thinning. I tried, he muttered under his breath, his voice softer now. He gave one last glance at his sobbing nephew before heading for the door. It slammed behind him as he went downstairs, intent on figuring out what had set Tate off this time, leaving the room heavy with silence and the faint scent of broken vases and spilled anger. Later Tate went downstairs to find some water, but instead he saw his mother in the kitchen frosting some brownies. "I want to talk to Noe," Tate sniffled. "You'll have to wait until fall when he calls you honey," Talia reminded her son. Tate felt as if someone had slammed a door on his chest. He can't just wait that long. I need to talk to him now. I need to know why. I need to please." His voice broke. "Please, tell me where he is. I can't just sit here and wait." Mom shook her head, her eyes soft but resolute. "Tate, you can't force him. He made his choice. You'll have to wait." Tate's fists clenched into trembling balls. I don't care about his choice. I need him. I can't just not see him, not talk to him." Talia put a hand lightly on his shoulder. "He's moved on, Tate. You have to let him go. You can't reach out to him right now. That's all we can do." Tate pulled away, packing, chest heaving. "I can't, I won't. He promised me nothing would ever come between us, and now he broke that promise." He dropped onto the couch, burying his face in his hands, shaking with a mixture of grief, rage, and helplessness. Why would he do this? I need him. I can't just wait." Joey and Talia exchanged a look, both sad but firm. "Tate," Mom said softly, "sometimes people make choices we can't control. You'll talk to him when he's ready. That's all we can do." Tate's head lifted slightly, tears brimming in his eyes. I can't. I don't know how to wait." And in that moment he realized the full weight of it. Noah had moved on. Maya had him, and no amount of pleading, no amount of anger or desperation could change that. Tate was alone. Tate was screaming in his room later, slamming the door behind him so hard the frame shuddered. His chest heaved, his fists trembling, not from fear, but from the raw, burning rage that had been building since he'd learned Noah had moved in with Maya. Memories surged, sharp and bitter. Noah had promised that no girls, no one would ever come between them, that no life choice, no relationship would interfere with what they had. And yet here he was. Noah was 18 and gone, moving in with a girl, tearing apart every certainty Tate had clung to. He grabbed the first thing he could find, a stack of books from his desk, and hurled them across the room. They hit the wall with a sickening thud, pages scattering like the fragments of his own heart. "What the hell?" he shouted into the empty room, his voice echoing off the walls. "He's 18, and he just leaves. He promised me. He said no one would ever come between us." Tate was livid. His favorite person of 14 years had lied to him and chose a girl as a reason to move out and was now avoiding his family. His fists collided with the dresser. A vase teetered, then crashed to the floor, shards of glass skittering across the hardwood. His hands were raw, bleeding slightly from where nails had bitten into skin he barely felt in the moment. It wasn't just the breaking of objects, it was the breaking inside him, the shattering of everything he had assumed, everything he had taken for granted. Tate grabbed his chair next, swinging it into the wall. The wood cracked audibly, splinters flying. He didn't care. Nothing mattered except the furious, aching hollow where Noah had been, the betrayal, the jealousy gnawing at him like a live thing. "He lied," Tate whispered through gritted teeth, voice trembling. "He promised, and he broke it. He promised me." Tate stumbled back, breathing hard, chest heaving, and kicked the door shut again, though it was already closed. "Why her?" he screamed, fists clenched, body shaking. "Why does she get to have him? Why does he get to move on, to smile, to live while I'm left here, while he lied to me?" The room was chaos now, shattered books, splintered wood, broken glass, crumpled papers scattered in every corner. Yet Tate didn't stop. He grabbed anything within reach, pens, notebooks, trophies, pictures, TV, a lamp, and hurled them across the room. Every crash, every splinter, every echo of destruction was a small release, a way to pour the heartbreak, the jealousy, the fury that burned hotter than he had ever imagined. Joey hesitated only a second longer before moving in, coming from behind the bed as Tate's limbs kept flinging wildly. He reached down and tried to gather him up from behind, arms wrapping around Tate's shoulders and chest in an attempt to steady him, to pin the thrashing limbs just enough to keep him from hurting himself. "It's all right, SHH, hey, I'm here, nephew, you're all right, stop, just stop," Joey murmured, tightening his hold as Tate fought against him, hot tears soaking into his sleeve. Tate reacted instantly, panic spiking at the sudden restraint. He thrashed harder, twisting violently in Joey's grip, heels kicking back against his legs, nails clawing at the arms around him. "Let me go!" he shrieked, voice breaking apart into ragged pieces. His body bucked with frantic strength, breath coming in sharp, panicked gasps as he tried to wrench himself free. Then, with a desperate snap, he jerked his head and sank his teeth hard into Joey's arm. Joey shouted, recoiling on instinct. "Shit!" He let go immediately, clutching his arm as the sting flared bright. In that split second of freedom, Tate scrambled away, nearly tripping over the blankets before darting across the room. His sobs rose again, louder now, spiraling into a full, uncontrollable tantrum. He knocked into the side of a chair, sending it scraping harshly across the floor, but didn't stop, didn't seem to feel it. "I want Noe," Tate wailed, voice cracking as he stumbled forward. "I want him back, make him come back." His hands flung wildly through the air as if reaching for something that wasn't there, his whole body trembling with the force of it. Tears streamed down his face, his breathing uneven and loud, each inhale catching painfully before breaking into another cry. He dove behind his mother, clutching at her desperately, fingers bunching tight into her clothes as he tried to hide himself, but even there he couldn't be still. His body kept jerking with leftover panic, shoulders hitching, legs kicking once more against the floor in frustrated bursts. "Make him come back," he sobbed again, pressing his face into her side, his voice muffled but no less desperate. "Please, please." Across the room, Joey stood with his arms still in his grip, wincing, watching the boy unravel completely. The space felt smaller now, tighter, filled with the sharp edges of Tate's cries and the helpless tension of not knowing how to reach him without making it worse. Joey crossed the room quickly when he saw what was happening, the tension in the house shifting all at once toward Tate. He reached him and pulled him in, firm, familiar, not forceful in a way meant to trap him but steady like an anchor. "Calm down," Joey said quietly. "No, hey, easy, it's okay." His hand moved gently over Tate's dark hair, trying to smooth the panic down the way you might try to steady something shaking before it tips over. "Settle down," he murmured, "you're going to hurt yourself." But Tate wasn't there with him anymore, not fully. The words didn't land in the usual place where comfort would catch them. His body reacted first, pulling away, resisting the hold, rejecting the contact even as it was meant to help. Joey didn't tighten his grip. He adjusted instead, staying close but not escalating it, keeping his voice low and even. "Tate," he said, softer now, "look at me, you're safe, just breathe." Around them, the house stayed still, holding the moment without interrupting it, waiting for the panic to pass or for something to break it. A sharp cry cut through the chaos as Tate's voice climbed higher, more frantic, more desperate. "Only Noe hugs me," he screamed, thrashing while trying to free himself from Joey's hugs, words jagged with sobs. "Leave me alone, you bastard." He stomped his foot hard against the floor like a much younger child, the impact echoing in the room, his whole body trembling with anger and grief tangled together. "I want my truck back in 10 minutes or I'll really lose it," he shouted, the demand bursting out between hiccuping breaths, his fists clenched tight at his sides as if the threat alone could force the world to bend back into place. He stomped again, harder this time, the motion almost throwing him off balance as his emotions surged past anything he could control. 10 minutes! Tate shrieked, voice cracking as he pointed wildly toward the door as if someone might run out and fix it if he just yelled loud enough. His chest heaved, breath coming in sharp, uneven pulls, each one threatening to break into another sob. "I mean it, I'll lose it," he repeated, the words dissolving into a choked cry as his face crumpled again, anger collapsing right back into grief. He collapsed onto the floor in the middle of the wreckage, breathing raggedly, arms wrapped around his knees. His mind raced, Noah laughing with Maya, touching her, sharing warmth he had imagined was his alone. The images stabbed at him with a cruel precision. And yet beneath the anger, beneath the destruction, there was a deeper ache, a hollow, unbearable sadness. The jealousy was just the surface. The real pain was the broken promise, the loss of control, the betrayal of trust he had clung to for years. Tate pressed his forehead to his knees, his body trembling. He wanted to scream again, to smash more, to make the world feel as broken as he did inside. But even that offered little relief. The room was a mess, a mirror of his emotions, chaotic, jagged, and impossible to fix. And sitting there among the wreckage, Tate realized something he hadn't yet admitted. Noah had moved on, he had broken a promise, and there was nothing Tate could do to stop it. Nothing, not his anger, not his rage, not even the memories of years spent together. Maya had him, and Tate was alone. Tate couldn't handle how Noah had moved on from their careful, loving relationship where both boys had roles and expectations which the other met until Noah decided that whatever Tate offered, Noah wanted more. Tate was upset and desperate for Noah to give up his desire to leave, and the elder would do anything possible to change Noah's mind or die trying. That night, Tate lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the darkness pressing down, suffocating him. Every shadow in the room seemed to echo Noah's absence. He had tried to sleep, tried to calm his racing thoughts, but it was impossible. His heart throbbed with longing, anger, and disbelief. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, he threw back the covers and padded barefoot down the stairs. The house was quiet, the only sound the faint hum of the refrigerator. Every step toward the landline felt like walking deeper into a nightmare he couldn't escape. He picked up the receiver, his hands shaking. The familiar weight in his palm felt both comforting and cruel. He dialed the number he had memorized long ago, Noah's mom's landline, over and over, waiting for someone to pick up. When a voice finally answered, Tate's throat went dry. "Hello." It's Tate," he said, voice trembling. "Please, I need to talk to Noah. Where is he? Please, can I speak to him? I can't cope without him right now. Please, I need to know he's okay." There was a pause on the other end. Then Noah's mom's voice, flat and almost dismissive, said, "I don't know where he is and I don't really care." Tate froze, the receiver slipping slightly in his hands. What do you mean you don't care?" His voice cracked, desperation spilling out. "I need to know, I need to talk to him. He promised me nothing would come between us, and now he's gone." "Look, Tate," the voice said, irritation creeping in, "he's 18. He makes his own choices. I'm not keeping track of him, and you shouldn't either, that's all I have to say." Tate's chest tightened, every breath cutting like a knife. "No, you don't understand. I can't wait until fall. I can't. I promised myself I'd never lose him. He promised me, and now." The line clicked. Tate stared at the dead receiver, numb and trembling. The hollow silence of the house seemed louder than ever. No guidance, no reassurance, no connection, just the cold, indifferent truth. Noah's mom didn't care where he was, and there was nothing Tate could do about it. He sank to the floor, leaning against the wall, head bowed. Every thought spun around Noah with Maya, Noah laughing, Noah moving on. Every promise broken, every memory, every imagined touch, it all pierced him with the same relentless ache. And for the first time, Tate realized the full weight of it. He couldn't cope. Not with Noah gone, not with the promises broken, not with the unbearable emptiness where Noah had once been. His hand trembled as he reached for the phone, gripping it like it might anchor him. But the room tilted slightly, the edges of his vision blurring. Something was wrong. Tate frowned, blinking hard. "No's not now." The dizziness hit harder, his body stiffening as a wave of disorientation crashed through him. The receiver slipped from his grasp, swinging as it hit the side of the table with a dull, repetitive tap. Tate barely registered the sound before his knees gave out. He hit the floor hard. His body locked, muscles seizing, then jerking uncontrollably against the hardwood. His breath came in broken, uneven bursts, eyes unfocused, unseeing. There was no one there, no voice grounding him, no hand steadying him, just the empty house and the sound of the receiver knocking softly against the table over and over. Time stretched, warped, meaningless. The seizure ran its course, leaving his body slack and drained. For a moment there was nothing. Then a shallow breath, another. Tate lay on his side where he had fallen, his chest rising unevenly, sweat clinging to his skin. His limbs felt heavy, distant, like they didn't belong to him. "Noah." The name slipped out instinctively, barely audible in the empty room, but no one answered. The silence returned, heavier than before. Tate blinked slowly, disoriented, his mind struggling to catch up with his body. The last thing he remembered was Noah leaving, the argument, the distance, and now this. He swallowed hard, his throat dry, body weak as he tried to move, only managing a slight shift against the floor. The phone still dangled beside him, unanswered, unheard, just like him. Tate let his eyes fall shut again, exhaustion dragging him under, not into rest but into a quiet, empty stillness that felt far too close to breaking, and the house stayed silent around him. The night stretched on, long and merciless, and Tate stayed there, clutching the receiver, trying to summon some hope, any hope that Noah would reach back to him. But deep down he knew he was utterly alone. Tate's chest burned, a mixture of rage and heartbreak twisting in his gut. Noah wasn't in his rightful place, his bed where he had belonged. How dare he leave? How dare he just disappear, letting his own mother be the messenger of Noah's absence? The thought of Noah out there somewhere, smiling, living a life without him, made his stomach knot. Every imagined moment, every imagined glance, every imagined laugh tore at him. How dare Noah think that leaving was a choice he could even make? Tate's chest burned with rage, every muscle tight, every thought consumed by disbelief. He had allowed Noah too much autonomy, too much freedom. He had trusted him, given him space, and now it had been repaid with betrayal. His bedmate Noah had abandoned him, leaving the bed that had once been theirs alone. Noah had given himself to someone else, chosen another place to rest, another body to share closeness with. Tate's fists clenched, nails biting into his palms. The walls of the room seemed to close in, mocking him and echoing his heartbreak. Tate couldn't stay warm. The cold wasn't just in the room, it was inside him, threading through his veins, hollowing him out from the core. His whole body trembled violently, teeth chattering so hard his jaw ached. His fingers had gone stiff and useless, his lips tinged blue, breath shallow and uneven like the air itself had turned against him. He didn't know how to fix it, didn't know how to make it stop. The warmth he used to take for granted felt like something that had never truly belonged to him. With shaking hands, he struck a match. The tiny flame flickered uncertainly before catching, and he crouched by the fireplace, coaxing it to life. It took too long, everything took too long. But eventually the fire caught, growing, snapping, devouring the dry wood with a hungry crackle. Tate dragged a pillow and a blanket close, collapsing beside it like something starved. He curled in on himself, pressing as near as he dared, chasing that heat like it might run away if he didn't cling to it. At first it barely touched him. The cold clung stubbornly, buried too deep. But slowly, agonizingly slowly, the warmth began to seep in. His skin prickled, then burned, then settled into something almost comforting. It spread across him until his whole body felt wrapped in heat, like a blanket fresh from the dryer, like something safe, something remembered. For a moment he could pretend. For a moment he wasn't freezing. But it wasn't the same. It would never be the same, because this warmth was empty. Noah had been different. Noah hadn't just warmed him, Noah had filled him, anchored him, made the world feel solid instead of hollow. And now that warmth was gone, given away like it had meant nothing, like Tate had meant nothing. Tate squeezed his eyes shut, his face twisting as something broke loose inside him. A raw, wounded sound tore out of his throat before he could stop it. His hands curled into fists, clutching the blanket as if he could strangle comfort out of it. "I didn't do anything wrong," he rasped, voice cracking, fragile and furious all at once. I didn't. The words dissolved into a sob. He didn't hate Noah, that was the worst part. There was no anger strong enough to replace what he felt, no clean break, no righteous fury, just this aching, desperate emptiness. If Noah walked through the door right now, if he even hinted at coming back, Tate knew exactly what he would do. He would grab him, pull him close, force him into their bed, into the space beside him where he belonged. He didn't need to forgive anything because the blonde could do no wrong. Because in Tate's mind there was nothing Noah could do that wasn't already forgiven. That was the problem. That was why it hurt so much. Tate rolled onto his side, curling tighter, pressing his face into the pillow. His breathing hitched, uneven and sharp, each inhale catching like broken glass in his chest. His little truck, his everything, had just left, chosen someone else, driven away without looking back. And it left a hole, a massive gaping hole that swallowed everything. The nursery around him felt wrong now. It used to feel safe, contained his, now it was just empty. The walls loomed dark and lifeless, the corners swallowed in shadow. There was no warmth here, not really, not the kind that mattered. The fire crackled, loud and intrusive, but it didn't fill the silence. It only made it more obvious. No laughter, no softness, no Noah. The next morning around 9, Tate stood in the kitchen, his eyes puffy and red while tears fall down his cheeks while he tried to figure out a scheme to get Noah back in his parents' house. Tate's chest tightened until it felt like he couldn't breathe at all. His whole body shook again, not from cold this time, but from something deeper, something breaking apart inside him. "I want him back," he whispered hoarsely, the words barely audible, like saying them too loud might make it worse. "I want him back." His voice wavered, then shattered. "I don't care how, I don't care what he did, I don't care who he's with, he's mine." Another sob ripped through him, harsher this time, dragging the air from his lungs. Tears soaked into the pillow, hot and relentless, but they didn't help. Nothing helped. Not the fire, not the blanket, not the desperate way he tried to curl into himself like he could hold all the broken pieces together. Because the truth sat there, heavy and undeniable. Noah wasn't there. And the warmth Tate had built his entire world around had gone with him, leaving behind nothing but cold and silence and a grief so deep it felt endless. You can't just leave," he shouted, voice raw and trembling. "You promised me nothing would ever come between us, and now you've betrayed me." He grabbed the first thing he could reach, a lamp, a chair, anything, and hurled it across the room. The crash of wood splintering, the shards of glass, and the tumble of books mirrored the storm inside him, the chaos of heartbreak, rage, and jealousy twisting together. Tate sank to the floor amid the wreckage, pressing his forehead to his knees. His bed was empty. His bedmate had betrayed him. Every memory, every small intimacy, every laugh they had shared felt stolen, replaced with the unbearable emptiness of absence. Every heartbeat hammered the same truth: he had trusted too much, assumed permanence, and now Noah had left him. Tate whispered hoarsely, almost to himself. He was mine. He was always mine, and now he's gone. Tate flipped frantically through the phone book, his fingers clumsy and impatient, skimming past names that meant nothing to him. His breath came too fast, too shallow, like even the act of searching was too slow for what he needed. Maya, it had to be Maya, it had to lead him back. There, one listing, just one. 3 miles away, so close it made his chest ache. So far it made him want to scream. Tate stared at the address for a long second, his pulse hammering in his ears. His vision tunneled, locking onto those few lines of text like they were the only thing holding his world together. 3 miles, that was nothing. That was nearby. Noah wasn't gone, he wasn't unreachable, he wasn't lost forever. He was right there, right there. I'm coming, Tate muttered under his breath, already moving, already grabbing his jacket without fully realizing it. Just wait, just wait for me. He didn't wait for anything else. Not for a plan, not for permission, not for the tight, gnawing feeling in his chest that told him this might not go the way he imagined. He shoved the door open and took off, his steps quick and uneven at first before breaking into a run. The cold air hit him hard, but he barely felt it. All he could think about was Noah. Noah could be sitting at a table, maybe eating breakfast like everything was normal, like nothing had changed. Like Tate wasn't back there unraveling, freezing, breaking apart piece by piece. The thought made something sharp twist inside him, hope and hurt tangled so tightly he couldn't separate.